How dare you touch me? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? The bustling hum of Spago, Beverly Hills froze mid-breath. Every gaze snapped toward the scene, a tall, icy blonde woman looming over a poised black woman in an elegant navy dress. Her manicured hands sliced the air, the sharp slap, cracking through the dining room like a gunshot. Gasps, whispers, phones raised. The blonde's smirk dripped with arrogance, but the woman she'd just struck didn't cower. In that moment, the socialite had made the single greatest mistake of her life, one that would unravel in the next 60 seconds. Before we go any further, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow the story gets even bigger. The early evening light spilled over the glass facade of Maison Étoile, one of New York's most exclusive dining rooms. Through the revolving doors swept Leila Grant, a woman of quiet elegance in a tailored emerald dress that skimmed her knees. Her curls framed a face that needed no embellishment. Her warm skin seemed to glow beneath the chandeliers. At her side, moments earlier, had been her husband, Vivian Marlowe, a tech visionary whose company had changed the face of renewable energy. But a call from his Singapore office had pulled him to the lounge, promising he'd be just 5 minutes. Leila didn't mind. She adjusted the silver bracelet on her wrist, a gift from her late mother, and sipped sparkling water. She learned to be comfortable in places like this, though she never forgot the girl she'd once been, stacking grocery shelves in Newark to help pay for her education. The murmur of conversation and soft jazz washed over her until, gradually, she became aware of eyes fixed on her from across the room. The woman staring was striking in a severe way, sleek platinum bob, angular cheekbones, and a scarlet designer gown that clung like a second skin. At her table, men in dark suits laughed obligingly at her every word, but her own gaze stayed locked on Leila with something colder than curiosity. Leila lowered her eyes, telling herself not to read into it, but minutes passed, and the stare didn't break. Then the woman rose, heels clicking like a metronome against marble, and stopped beside Leila's table. "Excuse me," the stranger said, her voice coated in politeness that felt sharpened at the edges. "I think you may be in the wrong section." Leila blinked. "Pardon." The woman's smile never touched her eyes. "This is the Grand Hall. We reserve it for our premier clientele. I'm sure the maitre d' can help you find a more appropriate table." A few nearby diners glanced up, their interest piqued. Leila kept her tone even. "My husband and I have a reservation here." The woman's gaze swept over her dress, her modest heels. "Your husband," she repeated, lips curling. "And where is he, or is he as imaginary as your invitation?" Leila's cheeks warmed, but she didn't look away. "He stepped out to take a call." "How convenient," the woman said, voice pitched to carry. "It's just that in places like this, standards matter. People notice when someone doesn't fit the atmosphere." Leila had heard variations of this all her life, the suggestion she'd wandered somewhere she didn't belong. She met the woman's icy gaze. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." That earned her a brittle laugh. "Confidence is charming, dear, but delusion is not. I'm Vivian Kingsley. My family's contributions to this city could fill a library, and I can assure you, no one here appreciates feeling unsettled." The insult was wrapped in silk, but it still cut. "I'm not unsettling anyone," Leila said quietly. "You're unsettling me," Victoria replied, and her voice rose a notch. "Which is why I'm telling you, leave now before this becomes unpleasant." Leila's pulse spiked, but she stayed rooted. "No." The refusal landed like a gauntlet. Victoria's expression hardened, and in one sudden, vicious movement, her hand struck Leila's cheek. The sound cracked through the grand hall like a snapped violin string. Conversations halted mid-word. Silverware froze above plates. Leila's cheek flared with heat, the sting making her eyes water. She steadied herself, refusing to give Victoria the satisfaction of a flinch. Gasps rippled through the room. "Did she just?" someone whispered. Leila pressed her hand lightly to the tender skin. "You hit me," she said, her voice low but clear. "I defended myself," Victoria replied coldly. "You were aggressive, everyone saw it." "That's not what happened," came an older man's voice from a corner table. "You approached her, she sat quietly until you struck her." Victoria's head snapped toward him. Stay out of this. But the spell was broken. Diners began murmuring, phones discreetly angled to capture the scene. Leila drew a breath. You judged me the moment you saw me. You decided I didn't belong. Because you don't, Victoria shot back. This isn't a charity banquet, it's Maison Étoile. Before Leila could respond, the air shifted. Evan was striding across the room, every inch of his tall frame radiating controlled fury. His tailored navy suit caught the light, but it was his eyes, cool steel, that silenced the chatter. He stopped beside Leila, his hand resting protectively at her back, never looking away from Victoria. Did you just put your hands on my wife? Victoria's painted confidence faltered. Your wife. Leila Marlowe, Evan said, his voice slicing through the tension. The woman you assaulted in front of 50 witnesses. Recognition flickered in Victoria's eyes, chased by dread. Around them, whispers erupted. That's Evan Marlowe, billionaire renewable energy guy. She slapped his wife. I didn't know, Victoria stammered. You didn't need to know, Evan replied. Respect isn't conditional on wealth. The restaurant manager appeared, wringing his hands. Mr. Marlowe, I'm so sorry. Are you sorry because she's my wife, Evan cut in, or because someone was assaulted in your dining room? No, of course, the manager began. This isn't about titles, Evan continued, his gaze locked on Victoria. You decided my wife was beneath you because of her dress, her skin, whatever arbitrary standard you live by. That ends now. Victoria's composure cracked. It was a misunderstanding. No, Leila said, her voice firm. It was prejudice. A smattering of applause broke from one side of the room. The older gentleman who'd spoken earlier nodded approvingly. Leila turned to the diners. She didn't know who I was married to when she told me to leave. And that's the point. No one should be treated the way she treated me, no matter their bank balance. Victoria's gaze darted toward the recording phones. Please, she said to Evan, desperation creeping in. This could ruin my family, my husband's business. You should have considered that before you laid a hand on mine, Evan said. Leila studied Victoria for a moment. You want to make this right? Volunteer 3 months at the Midtown Literacy Center. No photo ops, no press, just service. Victoria blinked. What? Learn what dignity looks like when it isn't wrapped in designer labels, Leila said evenly, or we'll pursue every legal and public avenue available. The silence stretched until Victoria swallowed hard. I'll do it. Leila nodded, then start Monday. For a beat, the air in the grand hall held steady, a rare moment of justice carved out in a place built on appearances. Evan's hand found Leila. You were incredible, he murmured. She smiled faintly. I just told the truth. Around them, diners returned to their meals, but the phones stayed recording. Somewhere, Leila knew this scene was already being uploaded, a digital testament that sometimes, in the unlikeliest places, dignity can stand its ground. The murmur of conversation began to return to Maison Étoile, but the air still pulsed with the aftershocks of what had just unfolded. Victoria Kingsley sat stiffly in her chair, scarlet gown perfect, but face pale, as if each passing second reminded her of the eyes still on her. Leila could feel the warmth of Evan's hand at the small of her back. It grounded her, even as adrenaline still buzzed through her veins. She'd been through worse than this, worse insults, colder stares, but tonight felt different. Tonight, she hadn't swallowed it down in silence. Evan leaned toward her, his voice meant only for her. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. She looked up at him and saw no doubt, no trace of the uncertainty people like Victoria tried to plant in their marriage. Only pride, only love. Victoria shifted in her seat, finally daring to look at Leila again. I'll go to the literacy center, she said quietly, the earlier bravado drained away. Leila studied her for a moment, wondering if the words came from genuine remorse or from a survival instinct as sharp as her stilettos. Either way, it didn't matter, not tonight. Then maybe something good will come from this, Leila said, her tone measured. Not for me, but for the people you'll meet there. The older gentleman who had defended her earlier rose, lifting his glass. To dignity, he said, and to the people who refuse to let it be bought or sold. Several diners echoed the toast. Evan's hand tightened gently around Leila's. You ready to finish our dinner? He asked. Leila smiled, a small but unshakable one. Yes, at our table, in this room, because I'm exactly where I belong. As they sat, the quiet clink of glasses and low hum of conversation returned, but the story had already taken root. By the time dessert arrived, Leila knew the footage would be circulating online. Tomorrow, people would have their opinions. Some would cheer, others would scoff. But she also knew one thing with absolute certainty: whatever storms came, she and Evan would face them together. And somewhere across the city, perhaps in a place far from white tablecloths and crystal chandeliers, a literacy volunteer roster would soon have one very unexpected new name.